Welcome to the Honest Health Podcast with your host, Jeffrey Burke. Honest Health brings you the brightest minds in the natural products industry, as well as athletes and entertainers. Jeff will keep you entertained and informed while educating on how to be successful on your healthy journeys. Now, here's your host, Jeffrey Burke.
Hello and welcome back to the Honest Health Podcast. My name is Jeffrey Burke and I am so glad you're here. This is a new platform that brings you the most up-to-date, groundbreaking information with some of the best minds within the natural products industry, as well as some voices from outside the industry, with all of them with awesome messages and stories to share. If you like what we're doing, consider giving it a like, a share, or subscribe on YouTube. Better yet, do all three. It's kind of new for me. We never had to do that with radio. So that's kind of a new platform for me. You're going to love my guest today, a longtime friend and guest on my radio show for many, many, many years. Jhoane Robinson is here. We're going to be talking about herbs today. We're going to be talking about women in the health and nutrition field. We're going to be talking about a lot of things. I know you're going to enjoy this. Help me welcome my guest. Hello there.
Hello, Jeff, and all listeners. Thank you for having me on. This is great.
Oh, my pleasure. It's exciting to see you. For so many years, we did this on the phone, so it was all audio and now visual, and now I get to see you. How much more fun is this?
Absolutely.
So tell me, what's new in your world? It's been a while since we've done a show. Bring me up to date.
Oh, my gosh. Where do I even start? With Cedar Bear Naturals, our liquid herbal manufacturing company, we have made some really interesting changes. A couple of years ago, I stepped forward and took the reins, and now as a woman-owned business, woman-run business, I'm having quite the time. Wonderful learning curve, and I love my team, my people, and being able to bring these incredible herbs and products to the world, but also more education, more focus. It's just been a great, great part of our history.
Well, it's we've always had very powerful men and women in our industry, and it seems like we've kind of did a little bit of a tilt, and I'm seeing so many more women at the helm, and they're bringing all this energy and all this knowledge. And I say all the time, women could run the world better than men sometimes. But I got to tell you, it is amazing in the industry to see all these amazing voices and all the visible women that are bringing these companies to new levels. And I think it's fantastic. So it's a wonderful thing.
It's a new part of the journey for all of us.
Let me ask you a question. What was the one thing that kind of got you going in this industry? There's always like one thing. With me, it was coming from a very unhealthy family, having a grandmother who was into picking dandelions and making dandelion tea, having bone broth on the stove before anybody knew what it was. So she kind of created the bug in me. What was it with you?
Oh my, well, my my dad was a doctor. My mother's family was a business family, high-end business work. And so all of this was new, but I was searching for something for my children's health, for myself, because things were going a little wonky in health-wise that the medical profession couldn't address. So in my journey to find those wonderful magic bullets, I met my herbalist husband to be, and that put me on this incredible journey.
Well, you were doing a balancing act because you were balancing marriage and family, and you guys blended about 100 kids together. So I mean,
That's about it.
so there's the family life, there's the home life, there's the mom, and then there's all the other stuff as well. That's a juggling act.
Absolutely. People would ask me how many kids you have once Carl and I blended our family, and I'd say, depends on the day. And I meant it.
Sure. It's fantastic. How many kids were total?
With my 5, including twins, and Carl's 6, it made 11. We had a whole team.
Wow. A baseball team with 2 spares. So that's fantastic. I got to tell you, when we first started doing shows, we were still at a time when a lot of people, listeners, and even people in the industry used to talk about herbs and herbal medicine as medicine only, as a necessity when there was a situation going on. And it was rarely talked about, being used for everyday health and everyday well being and part of a daily regimen or protocol. That's changed a lot.
And I know we've been part of changing that because a lot of our focus is building, balancing, strengthening health, more of a tonic approach than the crisis approach, though we do have wonderful formulas that do that too.
Mm-hmm. When do you think the change started happening? When people started accepting herbs as everyday rather than just medicine? Because I'm seeing probably about maybe the last 10 to 15 years, we've really seen kind of a metamorphosis of herbs. Herbs have been used around the world for literally thousands of years. And here we are in this country when something comes from another part of the world and we treat it like it's brand new and groundbreaking, but it's got 1,000 years of research behind it. And sometimes I think even with all of our knowledge and our traditions and our technology, sometimes we're a little bit behind the game in some areas. But I think that herbs have really found their place.
They truly have. Jeff, you've been a huge part of it all these years of educating and teaching and working with people. So those of us that have been out there pounding that drum, banging on it, saying, wait, food is your best medicine. Herbs as whole herbs are part of that. They're part of what we take, what have been used by centuries, by all cultures throughout the world. And so people's minds have been coming, oh, you mean there's something more than just taking an aspirin for a headache or an herbal substitute for that? Wait a minute, that comes from herbs. And many of those pharmaceutical medications, some of the really groundbreaking ones, they came and have their roots in herbalism.
The thing I always loved about your line, and we'll talk about the line as well, but I love that you offered individual herbs as nutrients for people that wanted to say, take an individual nutrient or maybe formulate their own regimen. But what I really liked was that you and Carl put together these wonderful blended combinations where the guesswork was done. All we had to do was follow the product because it was formulated and blended correctly with the right amounts of everything. And it was just so much easier. And although there's individual herbs in the line that I still use, mostly what I used from your line were the blended combinations because it was just one more thing for me not to have to deal with. And you did it for me. So I loved it.
Oh, very good. That's a great description of how those formulas, every one, it does what it's supposed to do. Carl is an incredible formulator. He is one of the finest anywhere in the world. But our process is part of the whole thing. By not doing an alcohol extraction, which was what most everybody was doing, but doing it with this special process, very alchemically based, that Carl had developed, the Tink Tract process, it leaves all those nutrients, all those bioavailable parts of the herb are able to be utilized by our bodies because of the way they've been formulated and created.
When I used to talk about the Tink Tract process and the Cedar Bear line, I used to always call it Mother Nature's line because of the fact that you use things the way that Mother Nature intended for them to be used. And you made sure that every part of those plants were benefited from and that nothing was cast to the side, nothing was wasted. And then the synergism of all those individual parts working together took the product to a level that, most people hadn't used to seeing.
And had not experienced. And so when you use a Cedar Bear product, one, it's liquid. So the moment it goes into your mouth, it starts going to work. And it hasn't had anything done to it that's going to denature those constituents, those enzymes and wonderful nutrients and actives that we go to extract. They're all there, but the glycerin in the base we use, the way it is, it micro encapsulates those wonderful things and holds them in stasis. So they last for years, they don't break down. And once they go into the body, then they go, oh, and they're all available right then, right there.
I found a bottle that was in back of my cabinet. It was probably 7 or 8 years expired. There was a half a bottle. It got tucked in the back corner, and I opened it up, and I kid you not, it smelled exactly the way it did when I bought it fresh, and the taste of it was just as perfect as it was before. And I always tell people to use things, of course, within their expiration dates. But I mean, I felt perfectly fine using it, and it did exactly what I wanted it to do. And so I was really pleasantly surprised. I said, that's a long time and it still smells the good. I love it.
Absolutely. They last for years and years and years.
Yeah,
We don't have to put an expiration date on our products at all, but we do because consumers expect it.
sure.
And so our current expiration date, and it's been proven by lab testing, by real-time testing, we put on 6 years. They they're good for many, many years longer. But truly, the more recently it's processed, because we've improved and constantly improved what we do, they're even more potent and more effective than ones made in the last few years than those maybe 10, 15 years ago, though they still in pretty good shape.
Absolutely. And I was very pleasantly surprised.
Mhm.
Do you think with herbs, I'm one of those people where I lay off of my supplements 1 day a week. Every week. It's not a religious thing. It's nothing. It's just 1 day a week. I let my body rest and then I start up on everything again the next day. And what about herbs? Do you personally think that herbs in today, in the status of, let's say, your herbs or herbs in general, whether they need to be cycled or whether they can be part of our daily regimen?
We utilize them, and I utilize them as part of my daily regimen. And I
Mhm,
move around with the different formulas.
mhm.
What I might feel I need today may be a little different the next day.
Yep,
And so, because they're so much closer to the way nature intended, as you said, foods and things we ingest, then I know that I'm building my health. Now, I have an autoimmune condition. It's called EDS, and it works on a very, very basic level, cellular level of the body. And so I have to maintain my health impeccably every single day. And Cedar Bear has always been, from day one, a very important part of my health care.
well, I know, and I remember because we've been connected for a very long time, and I remember that there was a time when these herbs are what brought you out and at least into
Mhm.
a manageable condition of dealing with this situation. And I mean, you had to give credit where credit is due, and these herbs not only saved your life but gave you back a quality of life that you could function with.
Absolutely, and I never imagined that at my, um, is that silver or golden age, that I would be running full tilt like I am right now in
Yeah.
better health than I was in many of my earlier years. It's
Well,
awesome.
it's amazing that the popularity of herbs is changing. Other parts of the world, I have friends that live in many parts of the world, and for them, they were raised on herbal medicine, and it was just part of the culture. And as they got older, herbs became part of their everyday routines, and just second nature to them. And it's been a journey here in the United States. Having
Mhm.
people look at herbs a little bit differently. But I do think that it has come a long way. And I think we're probably giving credit to these amazing plants that were put here for a reason. And I think it's ignorant of us sometimes to think that these plants don't have the capability to do things. Just because we may not know about it doesn't mean that they're not ready to do something in a positive way.
Oh, absolutely. Uh, Cultures for centuries all around the world using plants for health benefits. And we've lost a lot of that. I know my family had. We had to rediscover the great grandma's type of approach. But I think people today are learning, rediscovering, and embracing, because it's a very joyful thing to know we can take care of our health. We
Yep.
don't have to be dependent on somebody out there that'll tell us what to do of something that may give side effects on the side effects on the side effects. The herbs don't do that. There's a wisdom in how they work in the body. So we call it the wisdom of nature in every drop of what we do.
And thank you for that. I love that. I think that during the pandemic, herbs seem to see a clearer focus in many areas because people were now researching and Googling and doing all that they were doing and, looking into things that might make their immune systems a little bit more successful, giving our body a little bit more nutritional support, giving us a little bit more of a herbal protective, if you will. And I think since the pandemic, I've seen an incredible surge in herbs being used for a lot of these daily preventive maintenance functioning kind of supplement regimens that people are now relying on because they saw them in motion. They actually got to see them work in real time.
Absolutely. And when that old parable story of putting a fence at the top of the cliff rather than the ambulance down in the bottom of the valley, when you're working on preventative, on building and balancing and maintaining your health, you may not end up going down over the cliff.
I like that. Do you feel that everybody responds differently to herbs and maybe a low and slow type approach is beneficial? I kind of do myself, although I know some people use a lot more things than I do, and I get great results sometimes with very little. And then some things I have to use a lot more than other people that I know to get what I'm looking for. But I think that maybe this low and slow approach for some people maybe allows you to see things that are progressing. Because I think sometimes when you take way too much of something, you may get a result, but you may get the same result with a third of it.
There's truth to that. That when people push too much of all these, in fact, Carl used to do consulting with a group of people that did a lot with supplements and supplement sales, and they would take handfuls of pills and tablets a day, and they'd be getting sick, a lot of them with liver disease and all kinds of things. And he's going, whoa, guys, what you're doing, you're forcing, time out. You're forcing metabolic pathways, and your systems are breaking down because you're overdoing it. Take back step and do it gentle. Your body will love you for it.
It's interesting. I remember when CBD first came out and we were talking about it at Expo and it was just releasing and everybody wanted to know about it. And, that whole idea of low and slow was something that, we talked about at the very, very beginning, because it's a good example because, with CBD, I have a friend that's a professional power lifter. This guy's 300 pounds of solid steel and iron. I don't think he has any fat on his body. He could only handle about 30 milligrams of CBD. If he took more than that, it would make him want to sleep and take a nap. His wife is a triathlete, and she weighs about 99 pounds wet, and she would take 300 milligrams a day. So it's not based on size. It's not based on sex. It's not based on activity. It's based on your endocannabinoid system and what kind of shape it's in, either really good or really poor, to find that homeostasis balance in your body. So I think the same thing works with our supplements and our herbs as well, that we need to listen to our bodies, and as we're doing things, maybe just kind of listen and kind of check things out and see what's different, what's changing, and maybe work on your serving sizes accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Well, one of the neat things about being a liquid product is that you're not set with this amount in this capsule or tablet. You can take a little more, a little less. I will quite often, even though on our labels we say a quarter teaspoon 1 to 3 times a day, that's general. I may take 3 different formulas in the morning, did it this morning, and take an 1/8 teaspoon of each one, put in a little water, enjoy sipping it down, and that's a dosage. Oh, I also created a super formula by doing that.
I'll never forget the time we did a radio show and you guys were there and you brought in a whole bunch of tinctures and we did the taste test on the radio.
Yes.
And I don't know how many we sampled, but I got to tell you, no matter how bad I thought they were going to be, they were pleasant. They were wonderful on the palate. And I mean, I felt a little different after, because I think we tested like 30 during the radio
You'd
show.
feel
But
great.
you found a great way to make herbs that otherwise may not be enjoyable, because they're not all enjoyable.
Yeah, and that is so true. And yes, when you take a lot of them, you end up feeling really good.
True.
But Carl's first group or line of formulations he created was for children and little ones, and they can't do swallow pills and they won't do yucky by very willingly. And so he created them to taste good as well as work effectively. And that's just a hallmark of Cedar Bear products, is that, well, they taste great. They to some of them are good and some of them are amazingly good. And if you find the taste not fantastic, well, you just put it in water or smoothie, as you've said.
Well, so
So
is there a benefit to take them on an empty stomach? Is there a benefit to take them in smoothies? Is there a benefit to put them in a beverage like maybe tea or coffee or hot water? What do you recommend?
oh my goodness, there's just about any way you can get it inside. I say that with our pet products too. Any way you can get it in the pets. But if you're looking for a more targeted approach, like you're working on a respiratory something and you need to have our Respir Dry for wet coughs, or the Respirys for allergy type reactions, or Sinus Time for the sinuses. If you take it alone without food, you're going to get a more targeted approach. You take these with food, you're going to get more of a nutritional support. So
I like that. And, if you're really trying to get those results, sometimes the isolation of the nutrient is a little bit better, where you're doing it all by itself, all alone, so it can do its job without having to worry about any friends being there.
yeah, indeed. Now, okay, all right. I've got here.
Yes.
There's our taste test. It is, yep, delicious.
See? Do you think
Now,
it's the glycerin that adds the flavor?
The glycerin and the process. And this is from our new women's line that we've just launched. It is an extensive line with every single formula. They do what they're supposed to do, but their focus is to work with the endocrine system of a woman's body. And that's why Carl developed 18, now 19 formulas for the women's line. And we address every single stage and need in a woman's life in their health.
Now, sometimes do some of those stages come side by side or occur at the same time? Can there be multiple of these stages happening at once?
Oh, absolutely.
I knew that was a dumb question, but I mean, I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah. So truly, a gal having, whether she's 12 to 14 or 38, having menstrual periods where there's discomfort and all kinds of things going on there emotionally and physically, there are formulas for that. She becomes pregnant, then there are formulas for that. She has the baby, there's formulas for that. Going into menopause, that formula, menopause support, very, very helpful. Osteo build, you're trying to think of one of the other names, but it's escaping me right now. So there's ways that approach and build and balance even blood pressure, even cardiovascular, because a woman's needs are a bit different than the men's needs. So we have those formulas in our main line too.
Okay. I have a lady that she's been a big supporter of you for a long time. And she used to do the shot glass situation where she would put her favorite formulas, and she used to take about 6 or 7. She would put it in a little shot glass with a little bit of natural cranberry juice and a little aloe vera. And she would do her shot twice a day. And I'll tell you what, this woman is now in her early 90s. still doing what she's always been doing, loves the
Fantastic.
product. You couldn't pry them out of her hand if you wanted to. And she's in that mall walking club where they go to the mall every morning
Mhm.
and they walk the inside of the mall at like 6 in the morning, with a lot of the seniors that go inside because it's climate controlled and safe.
Mhm.
But she's there every day. And I'll tell you what, if you want to talk to her, you better have your running shoes on because she hoofs it. So she tells everybody about your herbs and
Aw.
about the tinctures because she feels in her mind that these little liquid tinctures, to your point, give you flexibility of dosing.
They really do. You can take more, you can take less, you can take it more frequently, less frequently, work with it. And that's part of the fun of it. Um, but also, because they're not alcohol tinctures and they're not really an extract, that's why Carl developed the word tink track, because it's more than either one of them. It's its own unique being thing.
Well, I think they're wonderful. I think what you've done is really made a difference. I remember I years and years ago I was doing a lecture and it was actually at an Alcoholic Anonymous group. And someone was talking about herbs and they taught up tinctures. At that time there was only an alcohol dissolution, and because people are really trying to make a difference, they didn't want to take a chance at using something that may still have the remnants of alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't want to they know they could burn it off in hot water, but they didn't want to do that. And then I was lucky enough to come in contact with you guys, and years later I spoke to that same group again. It was completely different people, but I was able to address it in a way that made me feel very comfortable that they did have this situation now, but it was a glycerin based line and not an alcohol extraction.
Absolutely. You cannot take 100% of the alcohol out.
Right.
So people that react, whether it's health related, emotional related, addiction related, that it can trigger those problems. Now, that is one of the reasons, I mean, truly, never used any alcohol in these processes and products that Carl created, but we recently became halal certified, which absolutely proves, to have that certification, there can be 000 alcohol at any time.
Congratulations.
Yes. And that is, we've got to be the first and maybe for a long time only liquid herbal company that has become halal certified.
Well, it's just another level of trust and transparency with the
Mm-hmm.
line. It's another level of that customers know that you're aware and that you're listening,
Mm-hmm.
and that you guys are not just throwing products on the shelf. You're making sure that you are not just creating, but you're living it and you understand what people are looking for. So that's something to be definitely congratulated.
Thank you. And it truly is so important to us to create the finest, but the finest for people to help solve their health issues and bring their health back into balance so we have a healthier world.
Let me ask you a question. Are you still going through health food stores? Are you going more direct these days? What do you prefer with people when they're looking for Cedar Bear?
When the last few years before I took the reins back from Cedar Bear, the previous team had really leaned into the online stuff. And now we are so excited to announce that we are focused on going into the health stores. We have distribution that just started under Lotus Light. And there are other venues that we are moving into so that the Cedar Bear products will be more available that way, especially also with cedarbear.com. We'll have more and more information and wonderful support with cedarbear.com as time goes on. And I love writing about health, so there's some wonderful blogs, really a wealth of information there. And so, yes, we're still available through some of the social networks, but we're leaning into the traditional directions.
Back to the brick and mortars.
Yep. And they are growing. They are growing this last few years. People are going, you know what? I don't know what I'm getting from this online. I don't even know if it's a counterfeit. And there are those that stores and more independents that are reopening up or expanding themselves that are just wonderful community support. We need community. We need each other, and it's a beautiful way to be.
And I love it that people are really coming back to brick and mortar and the mom and pop stores and, having those conversations that are so critical and stopping the guessing and actually having conversations about their individual health again. So that's wonderful. I just want to congratulations on all the wonderful things. Before we go, would you mind leaving everybody with a thought of the day from you?
Oh, take a moment every day to do something for yourself. Self-care is so vitally important to our vitality.
I love that. I'm going to use that. I want to thank you for being here today. Today, we're going to be talking with Jhoane Robinson, and we are having a great time. Of course, we talked about Cedar Bear today. You can definitely go to their webpage. You can start looking for them again in health food stores, brick and mortar stores, mom and pop stores. This show and this platform, I hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to take the time to like and share and subscribe. You can go to my webpage, drjeffreyburke.com. If you tap on the Honest Health logo, it'll take you to Spotify. You get the audio. If you tap on the YouTube, it'll take you to YouTube and you get to see our faces as we're talking and enjoy the video. And remember to subscribe because we want to make sure we're getting the word out. And I want to make sure that we're doing that on a daily basis. Jhoane, thank you so much. Will you come back and see us again?
Absolutely, Jeff. And thank you so much for having me and through the work you've done throughout the years. It's just been amazing.
Thank you so much.
Keep on keeping on.
All right. Give Carl a hug. Tell him we'll have him on next time.
Fantastic. Will do.
Have a great day, everybody. God bless.
Stay tuned for more information from the Honest Health Podcast with Jeffrey Burke. And make sure to check back often for interviews and conversations from the guests we all want to hear from. I'm John the Announcer. Thanks for listening.